Everyone says China will overtake the United States, but the truth is, it's doomed to remain second. And today, we'll explain why. While Western experts try to scare us with the inevitability of Chinese dominance, the reality looks completely different. Behind the shiny facade of skyscrapers and impressive statistics lie fundamental problems that can't be solved with money or propaganda. China's economy is like an inflated balloon, huge and intimidating on the outside, but one prick is enough to make it collapse. Let's start with the biggest myth of our time, the invincibility of the Chinese economy. Yes, the People's Republic really does show impressive numbers. Its GDP exceeds $17 trillion. Industrial output is growing at a staggering pace. Cities are built at lightning speed. But behind these figures lies a fundamental weakness. The entire system works only under one condition: endless growth at any cost. China's development model is based on a simple formula. Cheap labor plus mass production equals an economic miracle. But what happens when that formula stops working? Well, it's already happening. A demographic catastrophe is approaching China like a tsunami, and it cannot be stopped. Over the past 30 years, the one-child policy has led to the fastest aging society in history. By 2050, 1 in 3 Chinese citizens will be a retiree. The labor force is already shrinking. For the first time in decades, the working-age population is declining rather than growing. Who will work in the factories? Who will pay taxes? Who will support the growing army of elderly citizens? But demography is only the tip of the iceberg compared to China's technological dependence. Its industrial power relies heavily on Western technologies, microprocessors, software, high-precision equipment. All of it still comes from the US, Japan, South Korea, and Europe. China has learned how to assemble, but not how to invent. Take semiconductors, the backbone of the modern economy. China consumes 70% of the world's chips but produces only 7% of the most advanced ones. And the cutting-edge equipment to make them comes from just 3 companies, 1 American, 1 Dutch, and 1 Japanese. None of them are Chinese. If the West shuts off the supply, the entire Chinese industry grinds to a halt like a clock without a battery. And this is already happening. The trade war with the US has exposed the fragility of China's economy. Sanctions nearly destroyed Huawei, once a mighty company, and chip restrictions put entire industries at risk. And that's just the beginning. America and its allies are methodically cutting China off from critical technologies. But China's biggest problem isn't external sanctions, it's the internal system of governance. The Communist Party has turned the economy into a tool of political control, and that kills innovation. How can anyone create breakthrough technologies when every decision must be approved by party officials? How can entrepreneurs take risks when failure could mean prison? China's top entrepreneurs know this all too well. That's why the most successful ones flee the country as soon as they make their first millions. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, virtually disappeared after criticizing the government. Hundreds of other billionaires quietly transfer assets abroad and obtain foreign passports. When even the richest people in the country don't believe in its future, what does that tell you? State interference in the economy has reached absurd levels. The party controls not only strategic sectors but also private businesses. Every large company must have a party cell in its leadership. Every major decision must be coordinated with the authorities. This isn't a market economy, it's a planned economy in market wrapping. The result is predictable. Efficiency declines, innovation slows, corruption thrives. Chinese companies are good at copying Western technologies, but creating fundamentally new products is getting harder and harder. And in today's world, it's innovation, not the number of t-shirts produced, that defines economic leadership. Exports, the main driver of China's growth, are also faltering. The world is tired of Chinese dumping and low-quality goods. Country after country is introducing tariffs, looking for alternative suppliers, relocating production closer to home. Vietnam, India, Mexico, They're all taking China's place as the world's factory. And what about debt? China's economy is built on credit like a house of cards. Total debt exceeds 300% of GDP, more than most developed countries. Local governments are buried in debt from building ghost cities and useless infrastructure. The banking system is buckling under the weight of bad loans. The real estate market, the main form of household wealth, is in free fall. But economic problems are only half the story. China faces an even greater challenge, a complete lack of soft power and global trust. America dominates not just because of its economy, but because its values, culture, and lifestyle are admired around the world. What does China offer? Authoritarian dictatorship, concentration camps for Uyghurs, a social credit system that monitors every step of its citizens. That doesn't attract, it repels. Even countries that trade with China don't want to become like China. The Belt and Road Initiative, Beijing's attempt to create an alternative world order, has largely failed. Instead of grateful allies, China has earned resentment. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, many African nations all fell into the Chinese debt trap and now view Chinese investment as a new form of colonialism. China's military might is also overrated. Yes, the country has a large army and plenty of weapons, but no real combat experience. The last time China went to war was in 1979 against Vietnam, and it lost. Modern wars are won with technology and alliances. China has neither. The US has encircled China with a network of military bases and allies: Japan, South Korea, Australia, India, NATO countries. All are on America's side. China only has Russia, and even that's an unreliable partner under heavy sanctions and stuck in a war in Ukraine. Technological lag is becoming critical. While China struggles to catch up in chip manufacturing, the US is already moving ahead with quantum computing and next-gen AI. The gap is widening, and the further it grows, the harder it becomes to close. Perhaps the most terrifying threat to China is the loss of its world factory status. Automation is making cheap labor less relevant. Robots don't need salaries, don't strike, and don't require social benefits. Why build factories in China when you can automate production at home? The COVID-19 pandemic put the final nail in the coffin of China's global ambitions. The world saw how dangerous it is to rely on a single supplier. Massive supply chain diversification began. Companies are leaving China not just due to political risks, but to ensure business continuity and security. Internal contradictions in China are growing like a snowball. Inequality has reached critical levels. The rich have become hundreds of times richer than the poor. Environmental disasters have turned entire regions into unlivable wastelands. The education system produces millions of graduates, but with no jobs to offer. Social tension is rising, despite the powerful repressive apparatus. And what about China's youth? Many are choosing a lying flat lifestyle, rejecting career ambitions, family, and consumption. It's a quiet protest against a system that treats people as cogs in a vast machine. When a country's youth loses motivation, the nation loses its future. Yes, China may one day become the world's largest economy by GDP. That's entirely possible. But size doesn't equal influence. The Soviet Union was the world's second largest economy, and it still collapsed. Numbers in reports are one thing, real power is another. True leadership is not measured by how many products you make, but by your ability to shape the future. The US invented the internet, smartphones, social media, artificial intelligence. All the revolutionary technologies of recent decades were born in America. What has China created? Cheaper copies of American inventions. Even if China's economy someday surpasses America's in size, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. A country with an authoritarian system, no allies, no soft power, and no technological leadership cannot become the hegemon of the 21st century. It may become big but never truly great. History is full of examples where the largest empires collapsed from within. China is building its greatness on a foundation of sand. Sooner or later, that sand will crumble. The real question isn't whether China will become number one. The real question is, can it even hold on to number two?